My world is one of precision. It lives in the quiet click of a bearing settling into a watch plate. It exists in the exact temperature of water poured over gyokuro leaves, 90 seconds, not a moment more. And it thrives on my central monitor in the silent, relentless logic of the Arbiter. I am Dr. Kenna Royce. My doctorate is in chaotic systems theory. Most people think that means I study chaos. They are wrong. I study the elegant, often invisible rules that govern chaos. And for the last decade, I have applied those rules to the most chaotic system man ever devised: the stock market. The result is Arbiter. It is not a program. It is an ecosystem. Its patent, US 10,452,091, hangs on my wall, a quiet testament to a decade of my life. It breathes in market data, trillions of bytes a second, and exhales liquidity. It is a market maker, a stabilizer, and the profit engine of momentum dynamics. It skims fractions of a cent from millions of trades, a silent, invisible river of gold flowing into the firm's coffers. It is a reflection of my philosophy. Victory is not found in wild, lucky guesses. It is found in the calm, persistent application of superior logic. Arbiter does not guess. It knows, and I know it, down to its foundational lines of code. It is mine. He had no idea what he was really trying to steal from me. His name was Julian Drake. He arrived at the firm like a weather event, loud, disruptive, and destined to cause damage. He was the CEO's younger brother, a promotion born of nepotism, not merit. His title was Head of Proprietary Trading, which was corporate speak for the man allowed to gamble with the firm's money. His office was a shrine to bad taste, abstract art that looked like a paint factory had exploded, a putting green, a chrome desk big enough to land a helicopter on. I first met him when he swaggered onto the trading floor, the scent of his offensively expensive cologne preceding him. He wore a suit that was trying very hard to look Italian, but was betrayed by the slight pucker in the shoulder seams. His Gucci loafers were scuffed. He projected the supreme confidence that only a truly incompetent man can possess. He had just lost $1.2 million on a gut trade in the energy sector. He called it paying for a market lesson. I called it setting money on fire. He stopped at my desk, my sanctuary of order, my single Phalaenopsis orchid, my clay teapot, the disassembled Nevada Grenchen chronograph under my magnifying lamp. He ignored all of it and tapped a thick finger on my central monitor, where Arbiter's performance was displayed in a calm, ascending green line. A smudge appeared on the glass. "So this is the black box," he said. His voice was too loud for the floor. Several of my junior quants flinched. One of them, a bright young man named Ben, looked down at his desk, pretending to be absorbed in a line of code. He knew this was a territorial display. "I'm Dr. Royce," I said, my voice even. "I am Arbiter's architect. It doesn't have a leash. It has physical laws." He smirked. The expression didn't reach his eyes. "Right, Doc." He said the word like an insult. "Well, your laws are making us too slow, too cautious. There's alpha out there for the taking, and this thing is sitting on its hands." He used the word alpha to mean profit. A freshman-level mistake. Alpha is risk-adjusted return. It's a measure of skill, not raw numbers. Explaining this to him would be like explaining orbital mechanics to a dog. Pointless. "The risk parameters are there to protect the firm's capital," I said. Ben risked a glance up at me, a flicker of support in his eyes, before quickly looking away. "Risk is how you get paid, Doc," Julian scoffed, already turning away. "Try it sometime." That was the beginning. The small cuts followed, each one a calculated chip at my authority. The coffee coaster incident was a masterclass in passive aggression. It was in a strategy meeting with the risk management team. I had spent a week preparing a 40-page document, dense with data, modeling every conceivable market stressor from flash crashes to geopolitical events. It was a testament to rigor and foresight. I had just finished my presentation when Julian, who had been scrolling through photos on his phone the entire time, picked up the bound copy in front of him. He looked at the cover, then at me. He smiled. Very thorough, Doctor. Lots of numbers. He placed his sweating mug of coffee squarely on the title page. A perfect brown ring instantly bled into the paper, obscuring the words, "A forward-looking analysis of systemic risk." No one said a word. The head of risk, a man named Peterson, just cleared his throat and looked down at his own notes. In that moment, Julian wasn't just disrespecting my work, he was showing everyone in that room that he could and that no one would dare to challenge him. Then came the credit stealing. Arbiter, running its deep learning protocols, identified a subtle pricing inefficiency between two different commodity exchanges. It was a complex, fleeting opportunity that no human trader could have spotted. Over a single afternoon, it executed thousands of tiny trades, netting the firm $8 million. The next morning, a firm-wide email from Julian hit every inbox. "A big congratulations to the prop trading team," it read, "for their aggressive, forward-thinking strategy in the commodities space yesterday. This is the kind of proactive alpha generation we need to be actionizing." He used two of his favorite nonsense buzzwords in one sentence. He didn't mention Arbiter. He didn't mention me. He had simply claimed my intellectual property as his own. He would interrupt my market briefings to explain things to me. "You see, Kenna," he'd say, using my first name in a way that was meant to diminish me, "when a stock has momentum, you have to ride the wave. You can't just stand there with your calculator. I have a doctorate in chaotic systems." He had a business degree from a school whose main selling point was its polo team, but he was the CEO's brother, and so everyone nodded. I documented it all, every vapid buzzword, every condescending remark, every reckless trade. I kept a private, encrypted log, not for any official purpose, just for me, a quiet accounting of the debt he was accumulating, a debt I would one day collect. The quarterly board review was held in the main conference room on the 40th floor. It had a view of the entire city, a fact that was supposed to make us all feel powerful. Today, it just felt like a long way to fall. Julian's trading desk was a bloodbath. He had underperformed the market by 12%. His losses would have been catastrophic if not for one thing: Arbiter. My system had, as usual, performed flawlessly. Its steady, relentless profits masked the gaping wound of Julian's incompetence. He knew he was cornered, and like any cornered animal, he chose to attack. He stood up and walked to the front of the room, all false confidence and theatrical gestures. He put up a slide. It showed a chart of a highly volatile tech stock, Biogenetics, that had recently spiked. "This," he began, pointing at the chart, "is opportunity. This is the kind of move that makes a firm's year." My team was ready to pounce. We had the capital, we had the will, but we were held back. He turned and looked directly at me. The entire room followed his gaze. I felt the weight of their silent, cowardly complicity. "We were held back by the handbrake," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "That's what the traders called Dr. Royce's department. We wanted to move, but her black box, this cowardly algorithm, refused to take on the risk. It's afraid of its own shadow." The air in the room grew cold. This was not a professional critique. This was a public execution. "This system," he continued, gesturing vaguely towards me, "is costing us billions. Billions! Because it was designed in a classroom, not in the real world. I am formally requesting that we remove the master risk protocol. Let's take the training wheels off. Let's unleash this firm's true potential silence." 20 pairs of eyes were on me. I felt the familiar, cold knot of fury tighten in my gut, but my face remained a mask of professional calm. "The protocol is a non-negotiable part of the system's architecture," I said, my voice steady. "It is what prevents a single bad trade from destroying the entire firm. It is there to protect us from ruin." Julian laughed, a short, ugly sound. "See? Academic talk. Ruin. We're not here to avoid ruin. We're here to hunt." He turned from me to his brother, the CEO, a final, desperate power play. "Mark, are we a trading firm or a university?" Mark, the CEO, a man whose spine was made of jelly, looked from his brother to me. I saw the calculation in his eyes. Nepotism versus logic. Family versus the woman who built the machine that paid for his penthouse. Family won. Dr. Royce, he said, refusing to meet my eyes, find a way to bypass it. Give Julian the tools he needs to succeed. That was it. The betrayal. Not just the public humiliation, but the command to mutilate my own work. To intentionally break the most important feature I had ever designed, all to appease a reckless fool. I simply nodded. My expression was unreadable. Understood, I said. That night, I did not go home. The office was quiet, a tomb of sleeping ambition. The city lights twinkled outside. I sat at my desk, the glow of my monitors painting my face in shades of blue and green. I did not write a single line of code to disable the protocol. I could not. What he didn't understand was that the protocol was not a setting. It was the foundation. I had built this system with one hidden feature, born from my study of chaos. A feature I called the Liquidity Brake. It was buried in the core architecture of Arbiter, inseparable from its being. The system's charter, in a dry, technical document no one but me had ever read, described it as a non-negotiable capital preservation protocol. It had a single, simple rule. If Arbiter's own activity ever exceeded 5% of the total market volume for any single security, a telltale sign of a market anomaly or a manipulative event, it would not shut down. A shutdown would cause its own panic. No, it would do something far more subtle and far more cruel. I wasn't going to disable it. I was going to aim it. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I pulled up not just his trading history, but everything. His public social media posts, full of boasts and pictures of rented Lamborghinis, his expense reports, showing a taste for $1,000 dinners he couldn't afford. A psychological profile emerged from the data. He was arrogant, overconfident, and leveraged to the hilt, both financially and professionally. He needed a massive win, not just for his ego, but to maintain his fraudulent lifestyle. He was predictable. I ran a predictive model, feeding it every piece of data I had. The result was a 97.3% probability. He would target that same biotech firm from his presentation, biogenetics. It was his obsession, the symbol of the riches I was denying him. I began my preparations. I modeled his exact trade. A massive, over-leveraged buy order routed through Arbiter's execution engine. I simulated the market's reaction. I saw the trap clear as day. Then I prepared a document, a simple, one-page executive summary. It contained time-stamped audit logs, system diagnostics, and a clear, concise explanation of the events I knew were about to unfold. I saved it to a secure drive. It was his professional epitaph. I just hadn't filled in the date of death yet. The feeling was not one of anger. It was one of cold, clinical, and deeply intimate satisfaction. The next day, Julian called me to his office. He was lounging in his chair, feet on his chrome desk. "So, did you do it?" he asked. "Did you take the muzzle off my dog?" "I have made adjustments consistent with the CEO's directive," I replied, my voice a carefully modulated monotone. "Good. Because I'm tired of this thing second-guessing me." He tried to place a small, aggressive trade on his terminal, routing it through an Arbiter sub-protocol. On his screen, a red warning flashed. Trade size exceeds volatility threshold. The trade was blocked. His face tightened. The system was still rejecting him. He saw it as me, defying him one last time. It was exactly the push he needed. 3 days later, he made his move. It was just after lunch. The market was humming. He felt emboldened, powerful. He was convinced I had finally submitted to his will and removed the training wheels. From his godlike desk, he used his top-level clearance to route a massive buy order for biogenetics directly through Arbiter's execution engine, $200 million, an insane firm-risking bet. He planned to corner the market and trigger a massive short squeeze. He was going to be a hero, a legend. For about 7 seconds he was. I watched on my own monitor, a private data feed only I had access to. On the main trading floor, a hush fell as traders saw the massive buy orders flooding the market for one tiny stock. Ben looked over at me, his eyes wide. I gave him a barely perceptible nod. He understood. This was it. I saw the price of biogenetics jump. On Julian's P&L screen, a number flashed in vibrant green. A $3 million unrealized gain. Then 4. Then 5. He was a god. Then, the trap sprung. Arbiter's internal monitors registered its own trading volume in that single tiny stock. It crossed the 5% threshold. The liquidity brake engaged. It was not a simple shutdown. It was a masterpiece of controlled demolition. First, Arbiter instantly widened its own bid-ask spread to an absurd, unprofitable level. It was like a door slamming shut. There was no profitable way out for him. Second, it cut its trading size by 99%, but it did not stop trading. It began to sell. It started bleeding Julian's massive position onto the market in 1,000 tiny cuts, an invisible, systematic liquidation. To every other algorithm in the market, this was not a crash. It was something far more terrifying. It looked like a massive, informed seller was desperately but quietly trying to unload a toxic position before some terrible news became public. It was a signal of pure panic, and so, the market panicked. I watched his world collapse in real time. The algorithms turned on him like sharks smelling blood. The price of biogenetics didn't just drop, it evaporated. His $5 million gain vanished in less than 2 seconds. It flipped to a $1 million loss. Then 5, then 20, then 50. Red alerts blazed across every risk manager's screen in the firm. An automated email from the compliance system was sent to the board. Julian Drake had exceeded his risk limits by a factor of 50. The look on his face when he realized what was happening was something I will treasure for the rest of my life. The godlike confidence melting into confusion, the confusion hardening into pure animal fear. He was smashing keys on his keyboard, trying to cancel the order, trying to sell, but he wasn't in control. He never had been. He was just a passenger in a vehicle he did not understand, and I had just driven it off a cliff. The summons came 10 minutes later. The CEO's office. It was a scene of pure chaos. Julian was ashen-faced, sweating through his ridiculously expensive shirt, babbling about a system malfunction. His brother, the CEO, was screaming into a phone, his face a mask of purple rage. The board was on the speakerphone, their disembodied voices a chorus of impending doom. I walked in. I was an island of calm. I held a single sheet of paper. I placed it on the polished chrome desk. It was my one-page report. "It wasn't a malfunction," I said, my voice cold and precise, cutting through the noise. As requested, I gave Julian the tools he needed. All eyes turned to me. Julian's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "She did this! She sabotaged me!" he shrieked. I ignored him. He used his executive clearance to place a trade of a size and risk profile that Arbiter was architecturally designed to prevent. The system performed perfectly. The liquidity brake engaged at 14:06 and 42 seconds Eastern Standard Time. It ring-fenced his reckless position and liquidated it in a controlled manner to protect the firm's capital from further loss. The final loss is $93 million. It is entirely contained to his book. Without the brake, the firm would now be insolvent. I paused, then looked directly at Julian. His eyes were wide with a dawning, horrified understanding. "You thought it was a leash, Julian. It was the entire foundation. You demanded I let you fly by ripping the wings off the plane. The aftermath was swift, brutal, exactly as it should be. Julian was fired before I even left the room. His termination was for gross misconduct and market manipulation. The CEO was forced to resign by the board later that day for his catastrophic failure of oversight. The story, of course, leaked. An anonymous tip to a financial journalist. Julian Drake became a Wall Street punchline overnight. The Icarus trader who was outsmarted by the machine he tried to unplug. A cautionary tale told to junior traders to scare them straight. His humiliation was total. His career was over. 2 weeks later, I walked into the corner office on the 40th floor. Julian's ridiculous art was gone. The putting green was gone. The chrome monstrosity he called a desk had been replaced by a simple, elegant piece of dark walnut. My orchid sat on the windowsill, catching the morning light. There was a soft knock on my door. It was Ben. "Dr. Royce," he said, standing in the doorway, "I just wanted to say, congratulations. It was a perfectly designed system." He gave a small, respectful nod and left. It was all the validation I needed. On the screen of my new computer was an email, a firm-wide memo. It announced my new title, Chief Investment and Technology Officer. It was a new position, created for me. It gave me oversight of all trading and all technology at the firm. It was Julian's old job, but with real power. The memo praised my robust system architecture that safeguarded firm capital during unprecedented market volatility. It was public, it was professional, it was complete vindication. The market hummed along on my screen, guided by the quiet, stable intelligence of Arbiter. My creation, my weapon, my shield. I minimized the memo and opened a drawer. I took out the intricate, jewel-studded movement of the vintage Nevada Grenchen chronograph and my jeweler's loop. I held the loop to my eye, and the tiny, perfect world of gears and springs filled my vision. A system of logic, precision, and order. A system where every part had a purpose, and incompetence had no place. I made a tiny, careful adjustment to the balance wheel with a pair of tweezers. A small, satisfied smile touched my lips. The chaos had been contained. The new order had begun, and it was mine.